This is not what
You'll
I'm
be,
known for.
you'll be all right.
Be all right. Yeah. Okay. Okay. We are live on the YouTubes. Are you ready, big dog?
Let's do it.
Okay. Welcome, everybody, to the weekly edition of the Not Your Average Investor Show. Today, we're talking about that thing that we are all striving to, getting to having a rental property portfolio. We talk a lot about just getting in the game and the value of it, but most folks, they're trying to get to 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 properties, right? But some folks, if they don't have that mapped out, they have a problem picking up the first one, and that's just not really proven to be the best way to do it. You want to buy real estate and wait instead of wait to buy real estate. So today, the theme of the show is called I Got One Property, What Now? Which is we're going to go through, how quickly, whether you're not contributing any extra, just the profits from the property, how quickly you can grow a portfolio, how quickly you can grow it if you're putting in a couple $1,000 a year, and then if you got some more. We're going to show you the whole thing. I am your host, Pablo Gonzalez. With me, as always, a man that I affectionately like to call GC because he's got the genius concepts. He knows how to generate cash flow. He's a great host, and because his name is Greg Cohen. Say hello, GC.
Hello, everybody. How are we doing, Pablo? Man, I miss you, buddy. I wish you were in the studio with me.
I wish I was in the studio with you too, GC, but I'm at the other GC today. I'm about to go across the Grand Canyon, and I'm just a little bit nervous, as I've been telling you.
That one's a little bit more intimidating, this GC.
It's a little bit different. You know what's not intimidating? It's how we
What's
normally
that?
start the show. You know what that's
The
called?
roll call,
The
baby.
roll call, baby. Who do we got in here? We got first person checking in, Jamie Pedraza. First new name, right? New name.
New name,
Welcome
first
to the show,
one.
Jamie.
Welcome.
We got the Maven from the mountains of Denver, Leslie Wilson checking in. We got our leadoff hitter batting third today, John Henning. We got the early bird in the house, Dean Curry. We got Il Maestro, John Williams from Long Island, New York. Our favorite smile from the Pacific Northwest, Pamela Myers checking in. Our regulars, Gary and Rosalind Riley from Murrieta, California. We
We
regard you.
regard you.
We got Chris Lee from Fernandina Beach checking in. We got the Shaw man, Nadeem Shaw, with his trademark good morning, good afternoon from the Pacific Northwest. We got Amy and Keith from Wisconsin in today. Amy Roberts and Keith. Is that
There
a
you
new name
go.
or do we know Amy? I feel like
Definitely not a new name. They've
definitely
been
not a new name.
longtime clients. They've been on the show a few times, but yeah, great to see them. They don't show up all the time, so
That's
it's
my
great to
bad.
see them.
That's my bad. I'm just freaking out about this Grand Canyon thing and my head's not right. But I know LinkedIn Lowry checking in from Jack's Beach. Good to have you. Fritz, the famous teammate Fritz Brown, is in the house. Linda Evans from the Villages in Florida. Good to have you back, Linda. We got the Rock in Rockland, California, the number two Steelers fan of the Not Your Average Investor Show. Lewis Huddle is back. Good to see you, Lewis. Who else we got in here? If you are checking in from the text, I don't know what your name is unless you tell me because you just show up as Not Your Average Guest. So somebody saying greetings and salutations. Good to have you. Saren Jennings from New Jersey. I believe that is a new name.
No, Saren, she came to the summit.
She came to the summit. Okay.
That's right. Her and her husband came. So I don't know if she's been on this show,
Okay.
but she was at Summit, and so it is so great to see you, Sarah.
Good to have you, Saren. We got Rich Sicca from Jacksonville. That's a new name.
I don't believe so,
I'm
Pops.
messing
I
everything up.
don't believe so. I mean, Richard, let me know. That rings a bell. So let us know if you're a new name.
We got the ringmaster in the house, Andrew Barnhill, popping in a little late. We got Venetia Valsamakis. I remember when she first checked in, I was talking about how she's got a Greek last name, and now she has a portfolio of properties that she really recently
She
invested in.
does.
I found out. Venetia,
Congratulations.
welcome to the fam, Venetia. Good to have you in
Congratulations.
here. Who else we got in here? Latrice LeBlanc from Baltimore. That is a new name.
I think that's a new name.
That's a new name. Welcome to the show, Latrice. Good to have you. Make a friend in the chat. Silvana Kutcher from New Jersey. Uh, Good to have you, Silvana. Also a new name.
I
I'm so
believe it's a new
insecure.
name.
I'm so
I
insecure
know
today.
you are.
I'm freaking out about this Grand Canyon hike. My nerves are not in the right place. Sunny Song from Idaho. That is definitely a new name. Good to have you, Sunny.
There you go.
Welcome to the community. Hope you make a. Okay, Rich, not new, just been a while. Good to see everybody. Good to see you, Rich, as well. I see
Gotcha,
Justin
Rich.
checking in. All right, GC. Are you ready for the show, man?
I am, man. I am. I was up late last night. I was cranking early this morning. I am ready. And I think this is a really important topic, one that I hope can kind of relate to those both who already have a portfolio, who already have started, and also can relate to those who are just on the doorstep thinking about starting. So I think this is going to be a great show for all.
Love it, man. Oh, we got another new name. Tammy Tennant from Northern West Virginia. Tammy, I don't know if you know
Right.
this, but isn't West Virginia the one state where you don't have a client from?
That is.
We
We
got
have
49 states as JWB investors. We're missing one from West Virginia. Tammy, we need you on the bingo card.
We need you, Tammy. We need you.
Tammy, good to have you. Good to have you here. Hope this is valuable to you and you make yourself comfortable here. And El Gran Amigo has checked in. Bill Shields with a Buenas tardes desde Duval. Buenas tardes, Bill Shields. Good to have you. All right, GC, talk to me about the importance of building of building a small portfolio here. You know, like how we get there and stuff like that. How are you thinking about it when you were coming up with these slides for the show?
Well, I'll tell you about how I think about it even before putting these slides together for the show. What we know about owning rental properties is that if you are in the game long enough, you're going to win. It's just that simple. If you are in the game long enough, you are going to win. You can ask anybody who has owned rental properties for 10 years, 20 years, ask them if they have done quite well in rental properties. The answer is yes. And so we know if we can just create an experience, if we can create the atmosphere, the scenario where you are going to last long enough in this asset class, you are going to profit handsomely from it. But the problem is many people don't last, and it's because they don't surround themselves with a team of professionals. They go at it alone. They don't surround themselves with folks who think of themselves as a steward of your money. And what happens is they create bad experiences. They get frustrated. The people that they hope are advocating for them and driving returns don't. And they throw their hands up and they say things like, why am I doing this to make $100 a month in cash flow? And they're out of the game and they retreat back to the average way to invest. So as I am thinking about why is it important to share why it's valuable to get to a portfolio of 3 properties, it's all about staying in the game. It is about diversification of your rental property portfolio so that when one thing happens in one of your rental properties, it is not the only rental property that you have. When you have a portfolio of 3 or 5 or 10 or maybe hundreds of rental properties, what happens is you always have something that's going on in, let's say, one of your rental properties, but you have those 2 other rental properties that are going to buoy your cash flows, buoy your experience, and it just becomes normal. One thing might not be working 100% perfectly in one property, but you got those other 2. And so the real reason why it's important to get to a portfolio of 3 properties beyond just the returns and the numbers is for your experience. It's because it is going to increase the chances that you're going to last in this asset class. And when you last in this asset class, you're going to win.
Got it. This asset class is different than other asset classes, but it's still an investment asset class, right? So the idea of diversification equals a high floor is, you know, pretty standard across all investing. And when it comes to rental property investing, having a couple of homes, right, will diversify you even within the asset class itself for that floor, right? Like you said, if something is going wrong in one, the other ones get to kind of like carry it. And that's a better feeling than like only having one and kind of like something's wrong there, and it just feels very, very different. And then I think the other thing that we really want to talk about here, as I know what we're going to get into, is the idea that most people focus a lot on the cash flow side of rental properties. But for us, we understand that it's appreciation that is the thing that feeds the beast, that feeds the Pac-Man, as we say. There's 5 profit centers from rental property investing. It's appreciation, it's cash flow, it's tax savings, it's debt pay down, it's inflation hedging. But when you look across portfolios over the last 20 years, like you and your company has done for almost 2,000 people, you notice that the pie, when you break it out, like it looks like a Pac-Man, and that Pac-Man is home price appreciation. And when you combine home price appreciation with leverage, with a team of experts that allows you to make financial engineering decisions, that's when I think the experts call it your houses have house babies, and it starts to grow the portfolio by itself.
That's right. It's a technical term.
It's a technical term. The experts call it that. At least one expert that people think is an expert. Anyways, so that being said, GC, I want to get into your presentation. I know that you got some numbers here that we're gonna be talking about. So of course, we want to give the whole disclaimer. Do your own due diligence. These are numbers and estimates, and should help educate your decision. But everything has risk. Anything you want to add to this?
Yeah, JWB is not a financial advisor. This is not financial planning. Surround yourself with those who trust before you make a decision.
Okay, sounds good. So that being said,
Yeah.
portfolio properties.
Well, so again, in these case studies, I like to use real world examples. So I went and I pulled a portfolio. Let's say that somebody could purchase a portfolio. Let's say they had about $250,000 to put into a portfolio. This would actually be the portfolio we would choose for them today. These are available properties. And so I used real numbers. And what I want to show you is what a portfolio of just 3 rental properties can do for you for your financial outcomes. So let's say that you came to JWB today and we put this portfolio together for you. The initial investment's actually a little bit under 250,000, 237, 319. Your rate of return would be 11.5% per year. And this is assuming a 10-year hold, just to make things simple. Your total returns over those 10 years would be over $436,000. So clearly it can do substantial things for you. But what I wanted to do is, rather than just take those big numbers, which sometimes are hard to relate to, I want to break it down and show you what can this really do for you at different points in time for you as those financial outcomes become really important.
Got it. Let's get into different points in time. Do you see? I see here that you have it at the 10-year mark, at the 20-year mark, and at the 31-year mark. How come you went 31 there?
Well, 31 is my favorite number.
Is it?
It is my favorite number, but that's not the reason I chose it. I chose 31 because I wanted to show you what it looks like when this is paid off. And typically you're going to have a 30-year loan. So I wanted to use year 31 to show you the difference. But here's why this asset class is so beautiful. It's not just about day one returns, and it's definitely not just about day one cash flows. It's cash when you need it. It's when your lifestyle requires it. This gets better and better and better. And so as you age and those investment alternatives that you have at that point tend to be very conservative and maybe not produce the income that you need, this beautiful rental property portfolio that you built and just held on to and you were in the game for 10 years, 20 years, 31 years down the road, it is kicking off such a great risk-adjusted return on investment. So I want to show you at different points in time what that looks like, okay? Again, you buy this rental property, just 3 properties today in 2025, and in 10 years, this thing is kicking off significant cash flow per year, okay? Do want to make sure I mention, this is not just cumulative over 10 years. At the 10-year mark, your portfolio is kicking off about $6,000 in net rental income. It's kicking off over $7,000 in tax savings, kicking off about $15,000 a year in principal pay down, and it's kicking off just about $60,000 a year in home price appreciation for you. Total returns in 10 years across these profit centers will be just about $88,000 per year, and it's passive for you. Pops, what do you think about that?
So you're making $6,000 in net rental income the year 2035, or this is like once you cash out, this is what you have in the bank?
No, this is just you're holding on at year 10, and you're in the game. You are literally holding on. This is just a snapshot of what year 10 looks like for you.
Okay, cool. So that was a little bit confusing. So this is the cumulative. So yeah, so like Sarah Jennings is asking, so are you saying it's going up $60,000 per year in 2035? No, right? These are the cumulative numbers at year 10, what it has all amassed to, right?
No.
Okay.
This is just year 2035. This is just 1 year. This is what this portfolio is kicking off for you, just that 1 year. It is not cumulative over those 10 years.
Okay. Okay. All right. That's
I know.
That's really impressive. How do you explain that? How am I getting $59,000 of home price appreciation in 2035?
Well, it's because your home values would have appreciated over those first 9 years at a rate of we're going to assume 4.8% per year.
Mm-hmm.
We choose that rate because that's the average rate of home price appreciation. If we go over the last 40 something years in Jacksonville's history, on average, home prices appreciate at a rate of 4.8% per year.
Mm-hmm.
And if we go back from 2001 to 2025, that also has proven true. We are right at that 4.8% line. So we assume that over the next 9 years, that your homes would appreciate 4.8% per year. And then that last year, that ninth year, we're looking at and saying, okay, well, what's one more year of 4.8% home price appreciation over that figure? And that comes out to about $59,440.
Man, that's awesome. That's a huge number. You know, like, and
I
that's,
know.
and Fritz is saying it's across three homes. Drew Barnhill, the ringmaster, is saying this is the power of compounding, right? Like, you start compounding this stuff, these three homes, it starts to get really, really attractive just on a year by year basis. And it becomes this thing that you're going to be like happier and happier to hold on to as it's illustrated as time goes on, right? Like 10 years after that, now you're getting 20,000 bucks in cash per year, $15,000 in cash in tax savings, $24,000 in principal pay down, and almost, you know, like 95K of home price appreciation per year. That's some real passive wealth creation, man. That's really impressive.
Absolutely. This is the beautiful part of owning a rental property portfolio. This has happened if we went 20 years back. This has happened until today. 20 years ago, people would have never said that home values would be what they are today and what that rents would be what they are today and incomes would be what they are today. But this is the beauty of holding this hard asset, this beautiful rental property portfolio. And when we actually put the numbers to it, it's staggering. But then think about what you're going to need at that stage of life, and you're like, oh my gosh, this can be the solution for me,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, totally, man. I love it. I love it. Okay, cool. So you get there, and then I would assume if you're making that type of home price appreciation at that moment, now we're talking about cash out refinances, right? Could you want to kind of like explain the cash out refinance?
Absolutely. And so the value of working with a team who has done this many, many times over, owns rental properties ourselves for just about 20 years, manages over $1 billion of these real estate assets is, we're financial engineers. And so one of the tools that we use as these values start to grow is we use a tool called a cash out refinance to harvest that equity. Because equity that is just sitting there has a return of zero for you. So we harvest that equity. The tool that we use is called a cash out refinance. And all that means is we go to the bank and we say, hey, bank, I've got an asset that was worth this. It's now worth this. Can you give me a loan so that I can access this equity? And the banks love to lend on cash flow positive real estate. They've been doing it for decades and decades and decades. So they give you a new loan, it replaces the value of the first loan, and you're left over with a lot of cash that you now can use to make better decisions and to make investments or whatever life requires at that moment. You can live on that cash if that's what your lifestyle requires. And the best part of a cash out refinance is the equity you pull out, the cash that you pull out is tax free.
Awesome. Awesome. And that is Linda Evans is saying in the chat. That's why she was just able to refi on three of her properties that she's had for 10 years and buy three more new ones this last month. This is why the expert call it houses having baby houses. Right, Linda. So let's look at the numbers on that. GC, explain to me the cash out refi and the numbers here.
Absolutely. So as your properties grow in value, we use this tool called a cash out refinance, as I mentioned here. And the numbers on the left substantiate how we would do this. But here's the punchline, guys. By doing this cash out refinance for this portfolio in 10 years, you're going to put about 130 grand of tax-free income in your pocket in those 10 years. And that's not even all the equity. There's still equity remaining in the property. But what's happening is we're pulling that equity out. We're assuming that we'll get a new loan at 75% of the value, minus what the original loan value would be, and that's that number there, 137,000 at the very bottom. You take that away, and boom, you're left with about 130 grand of cash that you now can make a great investment decision with.
Yep. A lot of things you can invest with 129,000. Obviously, us here in this community that are trying to grow an income of cash flow producing properties, we are inclined to buy another rental property, and this is kind of like the deal, right? Like this is the this is that invisible wealth creator for real estate investors that happens over and over again. That's really, really hard when I mean, it took me like a year plus to start to understand this stuff, hosting a show twice a week, talking to 100 investors all the time. It's the initial thing that you're getting into has a certain numbers, and you can't really compare that first day cost across other asset classes, because other asset classes don't have this like back end leverage financial engineering magic of being able to hold onto the asset, buy more assets with it, continue the compounding thing that leads to these like extraordinary results where 10 years in, you're just sitting there and be like, oh my God, this thing is like multiplying on its own, like an alien baby out here.
There you go. I do. It all comes down to some type of baby for you, doesn't it?
I'm all about the babies, baby. Just got,
I did
yeah.
want to point out because it might be a little confusing. What I'm showing you here is just one property. So I made the switch from showing you the power of a portfolio of just three on the previous slide. Well, now I'm saying, okay, let's take this approach that it's hard to get to three, where it is for a lot of us to get to three properties. Let's just say we have one today. We have one today, and we employ this strategy over a 10-year period. And, Linda Evans just shared that this is a strategy she just used. She's been a longtime client of ours. So this is probably a very similar strategy that she used to be able to go ahead and buy those rental properties. Well, this is saying if you have one property, hold on for 10 years, the numbers play out this way, you should have about 130 grand that you can then go and make your alien baby properties.
Got it. If I mean, what I'm hearing, what I'm reading between the lines is, and again, these are numbers, and I'm not a financial advisor expert person in any way, but like I'm hearing if one property gets you to like this like 130K that you can go invest and get another property. I'm hearing Linda's story where she had three for 10 years and now she bought three more. It kind of equates to each property within 10 years can have a baby.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And we're going to take a deeper look at that in just a second, but you're right.
Okay. Well, here's the second, right? So like that begs the question. If you're someone that is trying to get in, but you want to get to three properties, it's like, all right, how do we get to three properties in 10 years or less, based on your own situation? And you put this chart together here, GC. Talk me through it.
Yeah, the really exciting thing, guys, is if you start with one property and you just are in the game and you hold on and you follow this pathway, you're going to be able to add properties without contributing any additional cash to this investment, right? And so what I did is I started to think through, okay, what if we did this strategy over the first 10 years? Let's say that we bought a property in 2025. And then we said, what if we do a cash out refinance in 2035 and assume all the assumptions play out like they have? How many more properties would we be able to get to in 10 years or less? So that's with zero cash contribution. And then we're going to look if we wanted to actually speed it up, how much would we need to contribute in order to get there? But the really exciting thing that I think a lot of rental property investors, I know a lot of our clients don't take full advantage of, is they don't take full advantage of the equity that they've built up in their homes. And it's just sitting there. And it can actually turn into more assets, which inevitably speed up the timeline for you to accomplish your financial outcome. And this chart starts to go down that path.
Got it. So what I'm seeing here, GC, is the idea of you do one today, and let's say you don't have any extra income, right? Like I know that JWB properties are cash flow positive, so they kind of pay for themselves. You have your reserves and you have stuff set aside when you get in, right? So like you're coming in kind of like with something either whether it's inside a retirement account or outside a retirement account, you make sure that people have the capital to like be in there for the game along with the support from JWB. But then, many of us also, whether it's by design because you make more than you spend and you're able to save 10 grand a month extra. I'm sorry, 10 grand a year, 10 grand a month extra. I wish 10 grand a year extra, or maybe even 25K a year extra based on salary, or who knows, maybe you get you're in sales, you get a big bonus, these like different kinds of things that happen for people in the middle of the year. maybe you cash out another asset, you do something well. There's these other scenarios where you can start kind of like figuring it out. And what I'm seeing in this chart is just based on appreciation alone, in 10 years, you can plan to have two properties owned if you just get one today. If you're putting 10K a year away, you can get to three properties owned within 10 years to get like that same kind of like value ball going. And if you can find a way to put 25K a year away, then now you're really building some like wealth super fast with like 4.3 properties a year. If I'm looking at this correctly, GC, would it be fair to say that 10 years later this would double again? I don't know if I'm jumping over too many things, right? But if I'm like I'm doing the math of like I saw that one property gets you to two in 10 years. I saw that Linda with three got to six in 10 years. Is it fair to say that it's likely to kind of like double again at that 20-year mark if you do it correctly?
Yeah, it would actually be better than doubling. It would, because all of your profit centers get better with time. So the years 11 through 20 are better than years 1 through 10.
Mm.
And so, yes, it would actually be even easier to have alien baby properties simply by doing a cash out refinance, and not bring any additional capital to your, in essence, to your retirement plan. And I think this is important to just kind of like compare here, right? As Americans, many of us have 401ks. And so it's very normal for us to think about a contribution to our 401k. And we say, well, that's normal. That's what we should be doing. You know, if you make 100 grand a year and you contribute 3% to your 401k every year, you're contributing $3,000 to your
Mhm.
401k. So this idea of contributing to your retirement planning is ingrained in many Americans. However, it's very foreign to think about doing it for your rental property portfolio.
Mm.
But as we talk all the time about on this class on the show, it's like, wow, the power of what this rental property portfolio can do for your financial outcomes. One of those being retirement is like no other asset class. So I kind of want to just like point that out to everybody, right? This idea of contributing cash is normal in one place with an asset class that it doesn't have a lot of the same advantages that we have here.
Yeah.
So if you are in a place where you can actually contribute more to your rental property portfolio, you know, what you can do is get to that magic number within 10 years or less, that magic number of three properties. And what we have seen previously from this presentation is that if you can get to a portfolio of just three rental properties, in 10 years, this starts to significantly change your life. In 20 years, call that more than significantly change your life. And in 30 years, 31 years, the life-changing aspects are very much there. And that's when many of us will actually need it, especially when it comes to the net rental income components.
I'm glad you went there, GC, because it's really about shifting the conversation of how we look at this asset class, right? Like when you said magic number, that's when I was like, oh yeah, I forgot that this is what we're doing, right? Like we are planning for a different type of retirement because we've seen the magic number before used to be like how much you have saved up over time that you then start to like take out of, right? And that is in this like bucket that is extremely volatile. And you're supposed to kind of like hedge growth versus like cash flow over time so that once it becomes volatile, now you have the cash flow thing locked in, but something goes wrong and you just got to make this like withdrawal on it and it's really hard to recapitalize. While what we're saying is instead of the ING commercial where it's like, what's your number? And it's some like cash number that you're supposed to live off for the rest of your life when we all know we're living longer. We all know that healthcare expenses are going up. We don't know what's going to happen with like inflation and taxes in the future as like income gets stratified and all these different things that are happening in the world, is that the magic number shouldn't be a dollar figure. It should be a magic number of properties that you have. And if you can get to a magic number of properties, then you have better options. I like to call it not being the most vulnerable at your most vulnerable. Meaning something goes wrong when you reach the ING magic number and you just got to like withdraw from it. You can't take risks from it. You know, it becomes this like limiting thing. something different happens for you. Something goes wrong when it comes to rental properties. When you have a magic number of properties that are paid off and cash flowing at a certain number, you have these options like cash out refinancing, 1031ing. You can sell if you want, right? Like there's all these different things that you don't have to pay taxes on, or you can like shift things around without taking these big penalties that allows you a better quality of life once you get to that point.
Absolutely. I think going one step farther down this path that you and I are kind of going down, it's, the old way of thinking about what we needed to retire clearly is not working. It's not working for Americans. At the end of the day, the most time-tested, proven way to make sure that you're going to have what you need in retirement or as you age or as we're paying for healthcare costs is money in the bank. Money in the bank is net rental income. And so the shift really is, it's not about a certain number of net worth that you need in order to retire. It's how much net rental income do you have, or how much net income do you have, rental income being one of those sources. And when you get there at retirement, it better be more than what you're spending. Right? And rental properties, because it's so consistent and because these numbers have been substantiated over decades, it is so easy to understand what is the magic number of rental properties for you. It's dependent on what is your net income number at a certain period of time. But it's really hard to do that in other asset classes because they're completely variable. You don't know if it's going to be there one day versus the next. And, the typical approach is, take risks while you're young and get really conservative while you're old. Well, in rental properties, you can be risk mitigated while you're young, hold on, and those things just produce wonderful net income solutions for you when you need it, when you're older.
It makes so much sense, man. And but it's not the average way of looking at it. And I don't really like blame people for it because I think that as I get more and more exposed to the real estate investor ecosystem, it feels like people just haven't had this available up until recently, right? You guys have been pioneering this for 20 years, right? But whether it's the speed of information or the amount of education out there to like understand this that's gated, or somebody has to pay $25,000 to learn it or whatever, just wasn't, like it that by itself created an obstacle. Now that information is free, like shows like this that happen live every single week. And I would also imagine that like you guys over the last 20 years going into a unsophisticated industry, that meaning property management, and being able to like understand the numbers as operators in order to like make this work and mitigate it and build a team of 100 plus people to do this just wasn't very common. It's still not commonplace now, but it was even less commonplace before. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, anytime that, man, I think anytime you go into something, you better be passionate about helping people. And I think the light bulb for us when we started is we realized we could do this business differently. We knew that this asset class was better than most. We just knew that if we could help people understand it more, and then we knew if we could create an experience where they could be a part of this for an extended period of time, they were going to win. And so, our whole passion has been kind of decoding, unlocking some of these things that as we start to share them on the show, if you're listening now, you're probably like, well, you know what? That actually makes sense. Why didn't I think about it that way? Once we kind of decode it, once we kind of break down some of those myths, we start to just kind of realize that the thing literally that is next door, the thing that is literally lining our streets, beautiful single family rental properties can be an answer in an environment where it's very tough to find answers on how we're going to retire with have the retirement we deserve.
Yeah.
So, for us, it was all about just, we read books, we learned in the beginning, we talked to people who had done this for decades before us. And once it clicked for us, we just became passionate about helping others find the same, decode it. demystify it. And it's truth, it's simple, and it's available to everyday Americans, which is another thing that's really, really important to us.
When
So
you
there you go.
say when you say decoding, GC, like for me, like this has been a big part of my journey. It's just like having these conversations, understanding it over and over and over again until it just becomes reality to me. But this one feels new here, right? Like this slide of like, man, at 10 years doing the double take of whoa, 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 whoa. So 10-year home price appreciation alone in 1 year is 60 grand. And then 20 years later alone, it's 90, like 95,000. And then year 31, it's 159,000, right? Like this idea that the wealth just keeps on growing, even as your cash flow is growing. I mean, just these three homes in 30 years, you don't need much, like I don't know what retirement plans are, but like retiring on 100 grand of income per year is definitely way better than Social Security is, right? Like on
Yeah.
top of other things, right? So like I think this path of seeing that it doubles in 10 years and then kind of like doubles and a half in 20 year, 20, in the next 10 years. And then it kind of like does more than that in the last 10 years. You keep talking about how it gets better over time, but I've never seen it explained so well as this one slide here of like the importance of getting to three and, forget about 5 or 6 or 10, right? Like if this stuff just keeps on happening, like this is to me is like the slide that has really proven the whole like age is like a fine wine thing for me.
Yeah. I mean, Paulo, how many rental properties do you have with JWB?
I have three.
Three. Do you feel
Yeah.
pretty good about what you've created?
Yeah, I feel great. Like I'm as I'm looking at this, right? Like I've got my three, I've got my duplex that I'm living in. Like there is the idea, and as I'm like thinking right now of like I've been pretty open about the idea that I think it's time for me to pick up another property, and for whatever reason I haven't pulled the trigger yet, just because I'm like so busy in life and I have all this other like life stuff that's happening. I'm just really thinking, man, just adding one more so that in 10 years I know I'm going to have eight. If you include the duplex, and if I can do the same things that I'm doing with the duplex, I might then be at 10 in 10 years. And what that looks like in 20 years, I now might be at 20 properties. And then in 30 years, I'm at like 35, 40 properties. Jen was just saying that her magic number is 30. And when I first came into this, I was like, man, I want 10 or 20. I just never realized that it was so like tangibly there as long as I can push in chips, the same way that I think about saving for everything else, right? Like the same way that I'm like, yeah, let's just hold 10% of my income. Let's just hold 10% of my wife's income. We can put half or more than half of that into rental properties and half or a little bit less than half of that into other stuff. And that's going to get me here. It's hard to ignore.
I know, buddy. I know. And it's exercises like this that help us see what's really happening across all of those profit centers, that I think make it a little bit more real. And then, what we can do is say, okay, well, in 10 years, right, how much do I need to be making every single year? Right? What is my active in? You start to get to have these conversations. Maybe it's at the 10-year mark, maybe it's at the 20-year mark after holding, your target number of properties. That's really fun. You could start to say, well, geez, if I don't know what the compensation will be in 10 years from now, I don't know what an individual's compensation might be, but if it's, 150 grand a year in 10 years, well, that you're earning, what was that, 90,000 roughly, just from those good decisions you made from that rental property portfolio 10 years earlier, right? This starts to really change your life, and you get to choose what you want to do. You get to have those options. Doesn't mean everybody's going to retire in 10 years, right? If you're built like me, I'm going to keep working because I can't imagine what retirement would feel like.
Yeah.
It would not be a good place for me, I can tell you that. But you get to have those options, and you have to you have to decode, you have to demystify, you have to understand this asset class and all of its beauty, and then you just simply hang on. Just simply hang on.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it, man. I think the thing is, we want to work because we want to work, not because we have to. Right. And to me, I remember when I was sitting down with you and the team and trying to like what my why was that is to have these options. And yeah, I have in the last 5 years of my life, I've truly found my passion for work and I found like my like place in the world professionally, and I feel like I'm really activating my superpowers. Um, but I also want to be able to have options, right? Like if something changes for me in my life and I want to slow down, I want to be able to slow down. If something changes and I have the opportunity to go really big, I want to have the opportunity to go really big. If I want to just keep cruising along as I'm doing, I want to keep cruising along as I'm doing. But I want to have more and more options to control my destiny, right? Like to me, I'm so driven by agency, right? By like the ability to do what I want to do and not what someone is telling me I have to do is so huge. And when I see these numbers and I think of like just setting the clock over the next 10 to 20 years to continue to have better and better options and control more and more of like my own decisions is extremely motivating.
I love that. I love what you just said there. You get to do what you want to do. What was your quote? You said, I want to have agency. I want, what was that? Because that was really powerful.
I blanked out. I don't know what happened.
Oh,
No,
there
I'm motivated by agency, right? Like I want to be able to do what I want to do, not what someone tells me I have to do,
you
right?
go. I
Yeah.
love that. I think for me, financial freedom allows me to show up as a better version of myself in every part of my life that matters. You know,
Yeah.
um,
True.
you know, not worrying about money makes it easier to have a great marriage, right? Not worrying about money makes it easier to be a great dad.
Hmm.
Not worrying about money allows me to show up better at work,
Yeah.
which, if we look at over the last 5 years in this show, right? This has allowed me to step out of a lot of the day-to-day that has gone on in JWB, but by closely enough connected that I can be that proxy for all of you.
Yeah.
But I get to follow a passion that I didn't even know I had before Pablo unlocked it for me, right? So that's really what, financial freedom can mean different things for everybody, but it doesn't have to mean stopping working. It can mean, for me, it means allowing a better version of myself to show up.
You just said something that struck a chord with me because I literally just had this conversation 3 days ago with Marta. We're coming back from Sedona, celebrating our 11-year anniversary. You know, there was a couple moments on that vacation where, like we wanted to have a picnic, and I was like, oh, this was more expensive than I thought, but sure. And we wanted to stay at a nicer hotel, and we're like, oh, okay. And like we're coming back from this vacation, and it was, and oh, and by the way, we bought a puppy, and like we flew back with it. Um, so it's all this stuff that I never I never had access to before under my own power, right? Like, yes, maybe I've gone on like nice vacations because my parents bought it or whatever earlier in my life, but under my own power. And we really kind of like, as we were wrapping it up, it was this, we did a lot, right? Like we went to Sedona for 2 days, did probably about like 12 miles of hiking in the desert in the, in the end of May. Then we flew to Kansas to pick up this puppy. And, we did all these like, and had this like beautiful picnic and these beautiful meals. And we weren't drained because we were doing a bunch of stuff that we loved. We weren't stressed out about financial decisions and logistics. And she really did look at me and she goes, she said exactly what you said. She was just like, man, having the financial like solid ground that we have now really does make life easier. You feel guilty to say that, right? Like, cause it's like money isn't everything and whatnot. But man, for me, it's really represented opening up capacity when you're not worrying about that stuff because you know that your financial future is on like rails to get to a destination that you really, really believe in. Um, it allows you to worry about different things. I think you told me this. You never get a chance to not have problems anymore. You just get the chance to solve better problems. And we find ourselves solving better problems these days as opposed to solving financial problems. And it's super, super powerful. And it's never been more real than it was in this last week.
I stole that from my business partner, Adam Riegel. Um, he said, you're never going to get rid of your problems. You're always just in search. You're doing well if you have a higher quality of problems in your life,
Yeah.
a higher
Yeah.
quality of problems. He said that, I don't know, it must have been 10 or 15 years ago. And I was like, man, that is so spot on. I think that is, man, that rings true. But within your journey, you had to make so many choices that were not average. You had to make so many choices where you went against the status
Yeah.
quo. I mean, goodness, in your active business, I mean, share a little bit about how much of a leap you took to start your business. And then, of course, on the rental property side too, big leaps that you took. So share a little bit about that.
I was 10 years ago, I found myself at like what I would call a dead end. And as I look back at it, I was really before I left Miami, I had the chance to join a new construction company as their like head of business development, making like 30% more than I was making before. But I but I felt like I was in a dead end because I didn't see myself ever really enjoying what I was doing. And I felt myself falling upwards. And I knew I had to go chase this idea of like, what am I made of? Or do my ideas belong in the world? Or am I always just gonna feel like I'm coasting on like this like pre-born advantage that I've had of coming from like a good family, having a good brain, being a likable guy, and continue to get ideas. And I remember before I left that career to just chase this idea that I had of community creation for business development, by joining a startup, super risky, and then eventually starting my own company and doing all these different things. I remember my dad being like, "Son, don't do this." Right? Like I remember him saying, "Hey, listen, man, I'm not kidding. Like this really isn't the thing that you should do right now in your life. You're 38. You don't have a lot of like you can't fail right now, like right when you're getting here." And I remember
Right.
looking at him and being like, "Dad, it's not about that, man." Like it was the first time that I ever like looked at my dad square in the eye and said, "With all due respect, I'm just going to go against your best advice." So that's the thing that rings out to me when you're talking about this. But then I think also then getting to Jacksonville, the startup failed. I'm starting my own business. I'm following this thing. I'm not just like calling home and taking a lifeline, but we're renting. I know that the Jacksonville, I'm hosting this show with you. I'm just like, this Jacksonville market is really special. I can tell. I want to own a piece of it. I feel like if I don't own a piece of it now, it's going to happen to me like it happened to me in Miami in the early 2000s when it just wasn't the right time. So I never owned Miami real estate, and that was a mistake. So we were renting. We didn't want to buy our forever home because we would see that more as a liability than an asset. And after hosting this show and talking to many people, ended up deciding to start buying rental properties. And I bought 3 rental properties before I even bought my first primary resident. Another moment where my parents are like, "What are you doing, bro?" But it's all kind of come back around and they're all in on me again.
I'm really interested to hear what Pablo, who at 25 years old,
Yeah.
would have said to Pablo at 38 when he was about to make some of these very not your average decisions. And
Yeah.
then, how much of the smackdown Pablo at 42,
Right now?
43,
Right
40,
now, I'm 44, young man.
44. That's right. I wanted you to
Yeah.
say it. You old man,
I
you.
know. It's because I'm so much your senior that it's hard to understand.
He
I get
is
it.
my senior. Well, how much of the smackdown would Pablo at 44 lay down on Pablo 2020 25?
Man, Pablo at 25, I should have known, hey, go find the best property manager out there and buy something that is cash flow positive right now. And like, don't worry that you're going to move around a whole bunch in your career. Like, don't think of a home as like only something to live in for you. And I would have a very different financial future. But anyways, I don't want to make this whole show about me. I want to get into Q&A that we have here. And I also want to just kind of get into like, we've talked about this vision and let's bring it back to like what it looks like starting today. So with that, Amy Roberts is asking, what are the current interest rates available for these cash out refinances right now?
Amy, I'm glad you asked. Interest rates right now are in the low fives, and that's because of the incentive package that we have. We haven't mentioned at all about the incentive. But guys, I wanted to share with you, we have been overwhelmed with interest. Many of you on this show have purchased either your first properties or additional properties with JWB during this incentive. We initially ran it out there for the first 30 contracts. Guys, we haven't had enough people to be able to talk with everybody who has expressed interest in buying a home. So it's still live. I don't know what number contract we're at right now. It's going to end sometime soon, but we are not going to say no to somebody who reached out to us a week ago and said, I want to take part in this incentive. So long story short, we're still talking with folks that are taking on or being able to take advantage of this incentive. And if you want to reach out to us right now, talk to us. We'll see what we can do for the incentive package. It's up to $17,500 per property. And as I mentioned, we just had our best sales month of the year, as you would imagine, with an incentive package like that. So long story short, that's an aside. With the incentive package, folks are closing in the low fives. We have clients that are locking in an interest rate as low as 5%. And in addition to that, folks are also getting that property management credit, which is between $4,000 to $6,000. So you put both of those incentives together, it comes to about 17,500.
Got it. So short answer is around 5% if you take advantage of the incentives, which is lower than most people are hearing. If I was to extend that answer, when you say that you've had the best sales month, ever, or best sales month ever? No,
not ever. I mean,
no.
2021 was crazy.
Yeah, 2021 was nuts. That being said, I'll tell you this for certain: best sales month for our community. Right.
Yeah.
Like when we look at the amount of people buying JWB homes right now and this like extraordinary amount of folks that have put homes under contract, the large majority of them are folks that are watching this show, that are in our chat, that are in the WhatsApp group, that are active members of the community that recognize this thing. And that's been incredible to watch. Like the WhatsApp channel is just like, oh, I picked up 3. You were like Venny was like, yeah, I picked up 3. And like all these different people. It's been really incredible and really rewarding to know that it's the not your average folk inside the not your average investor community that are really reaping the rewards of this, that are really making me feel like an idiot for not having already done it myself. But that being said, GC, I remember you said that you guys kind of like pre-purchased a package of these like mortgages, or like you pre-purchased this. Are you saying that there's a chance that y'all can kind of like pre-purchase another kind of like Starbucks gift card full of mortgages, or what?
Yeah, actually, I thought we did, but we actually didn't pre-purchase do the loan forward commitment. We thought that
Okay.
that's what was going to be needed to do it. And
Okay.
then I just got that wrong. So we actually did not pre-purchase a set amount of loans. We
Okay.
actually figured out a way to be able to get the incentive the way that it needed to be without having to pre-purchase them. So there's a little bit more flexibility with the loans, which is why now when we have folks that are, kind of overwhelming us with their interest. And we do have that flexibility to be able to offer it to a few more folks. That's what we're doing.
Cool. All right. We got another question. Venny, Venetia Valsamakis is saying, if we're targeting around 10K to 12K per month in passive income within the next 15 years, how do we find that magic number? Does the JWB team have a projection model or planning framework that account for property appreciation, rental income growth, financing strategy, and timeline to help us understand how many properties we'd need and when to acquire them?
Venny, I am so excited to welcome you as a client. Congratulations on your first purchases. And I know we're going to love working together because this question is amazing. And the answer is yes, we do. This is a part of your ongoing service from JWB as this financial engineering arm for you. And so typically after you purchase your homes, and I think you're in the process of being under contract right now. If not, let me know. But soon after you close, you'll meet other members of the client service team. And what we'll do is in the coming months, we'll sit down and we'll actually map out where your portfolio needs to go. And we start to map out what is your target number of properties. And that's, of course, based on what your goals are and your timelines. And so, yes, you can look forward to that. It's something that we typically do once the dust clears after your first purchases. And then we use that plan, that investment plan, the real estate plan that we build together. And we use that to help build a portfolio for years and years and years. We go back to that plan. We have annual reviews with you. We sit down, we say, okay, this was the plan here. Is this still the plan? Has anything changed? So yes, you have all of that coming your way. And again, we're just so excited to have you as a client.
Awesome. If you thought that question was exciting, just wait for this one from Amy Roberts. What is the timeline to get the refinancing and purchase these additional get this purchase complete? Both of her 2016 JWB properties are paid in full, and she thinks it may be time to do this.
Amy, this is a great time. Just reach out to the team. If you're asking about what the timeline is to do a refinance, it's a typical loan. I mean, I don't know. Don't hold me to it, but I'm going to assume somewhere around 30, maybe 45 days. So just talk to the team, talk to your portfolio manager. Yeah, we'd be excited to help you and Keith keep adding those portfolio.
She's asking what's the best way to get in queue to work with a JWB team member to get this process started.
Yeah, Amy, if you know your individual JWB portfolio manager, you can reach out to them by email. If not, just send an email to info@JWB Companies, and then our team will direct you to your portfolio manager. We'll get that process started for you, and you'll be on your way.
Sweet. All right, GC. I thought that was a pretty good show, man. What do you think?
I think so. Every once in a while we get to do kind of like these teaching shows, and I really dig it, because I think it's not every time, but we get to choose the things that I think are really going to make an impact and put some numbers to it and kind of just like, talk a little bit about it. And I think today, I hope you all feel that way, that there were probably some moments where you're like, wow, is that real? I mean, even Pablo was like, wait a second, that's not real. And I had to be like, no, man, it really is. And then we got to talk a little bit about maybe changing perspective on how we think about retirement accounts and how we think about contributions. So, when we get to do one of these more kind of educational or teaching shows, if we can have a few aha moments, I think we've succeeded. And hopefully you guys had a few of those today.
I think so too, man. When we go into a show like this, I always question, hey, is this going to be too basic? We have this like mix of folks. And maybe at the beginning of the show, I'm like, man, I feel like we're saying the same thing that we've said before. But as we trust the process of this stuff, there's always a new aha, right? Like that slide of 10 years is 2x, 20 years is like 2.5x. Just from there, man, that was a really big aha for me in a topic that I thought was going to be like really vanilla and I was going to have to like fake excitement over. Right. So I find it fascinating that we're able to revisit old topics and find new angles so that even somebody that's literally been on every single show like myself gets a new aha out of it. The same as somebody that might be a beginner that might be getting exposed to this, to maybe somebody like Amy who's been investing with you for 10 years and she's like, oh man, maybe right now is the time to do this because like you presented an information in this way. I think it's really cool, man. And I just want to say that I appreciate all the hard work that you put into these slides, man. Like I know that you've been super busy. You have all these kind of like competing interests, specifically right now. You were like till crunch time putting these slides together, making sure that the numbers were right. And I know I saw you get stressed out and your hair might be a little bit disheveled right now. No big deal. But, but man, it's just like there's just so much value in seeing you put this stuff together and present it in different ways. So I really appreciate it, man.
You know what, man? This is awesome. It is awesome to have accountability. I think this show brings accountability to me, and I love it. I have a lot of accountability from my business partners and whatnot, but there's a certain accountability of just showing up and trying to bring value, and really trying to help. We built a nice platform here. Every week we get to influence hundreds, thousands of people beyond, for the folks that tune in live and the podcast and whatnot. It's an awesome responsibility and it's an awesome accountability tool. So I love putting the work in. What I have been doing, just so everybody can get excited, is I've been preparing for the quarterly market update. And I started to do this now. I do it about a month in advance just to make sure that it's exactly the message that we want to share, that it's all substantiated with great data. So I was up late last night preparing for our quarterly market update. That's coming up in a couple of weeks. So you guys are going to have a good one coming your way.
It's going to be awesome. I've got a little surprise. People are requesting a picture of the puppy. I am going to acquiesce.
Let's do it. Miss Piggy.
Show a picture of the puppy. This is Miss Piggy. This is my new Old English sheepdog that we just picked up. She's 8 weeks old. Already weighs 16 pounds. She's massive for a brand new puppy. So those paws are like the size of my hands, which are small for
Holy cow.
male grown hands, but really big for a puppy.
I was gonna say it's the first thing I saw those paws, man. I hadn't seen this picture.
Yeah.
This is like the cutest picture I've ever
Yeah,
seen, dude.
it's adorable. She's so sweet, man.
That's
She's
awesome.
so sweet. So,
Oh
yeah,
man.
that being said, want to thank the community for being here. You make it great, right? Like asking these questions, doing this, taking an hour out of your day to like educate yourself. It's what makes it all worth it. Like GC said, this show is a forcing function for us to continue to refine the message, to make it easier, to make it more accessible for folks to understand this stuff, that they don't have to live by the status quo. They can take control of their own finances. They can have better options. Next week, like we do, right? Like next week, we're going to tap into another familiar subject, how to invest in your retirement accounts. We do it maybe once a year. We talk about investing in your IRA and your 401k and self-directed IRAs and non-recourse loans and all the good stuff. So we're going to revisit that topic because there are still many people that don't understand how powerful that is. And from now till then, GC,